Hey everybody, what's happening? This is Pete Foldes with Plouton Life. Happy to be here with my good friend Chris Kirkpatrick.
Going
And
on?
I called on Chris today to join me for a special opportunity where we get to really peel back the curtain on our relationship a little bit as we do a video reaction to what it's like using whole life insurance for tax-free income and whether or not it might even be more costly than the dividend. We'll find out here what we think about what it looks like if infinite banking, this crazy concept that you hear out there about using life insurance to generate retirement income, tax-free income, Swiss Army knife of financial vehicles, is actually going to be something that works best for you. So, Chris, thanks for being here. Welcome to the opportunity to have this with you.
Hey man, I'm stoked to be here. These kinds of videos are probably some of my most fun videos to do, to be able to see all the misguided information that people are putting out there on the internet and set the record straight. So it's gonna be fun.
Absolutely. And we're going to dive right in. And today isn't necessarily we'll see where we go, right? But today we really want to dig in, and it's all about perspective. What it is that you might use a policy for, how you want to use it. And one of the
100%.
things that I know you have coming out and people definitely should plug into is the most misrepresented product out there, which is the IUL. And yeah, there we go. IUL exposed. That's coming out any day now. Any further updates on when we might be able to release the
I
book?
just got the final print. This is a prototype, and there were a couple errors. We got a second version, and then we just figured it all out. Hopefully, we got it good enough. Listen, it may not be perfect, but it's close enough. And I think next week it's going to be launching. We are there.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you.
We'll have to
Yeah,
hop on
super
another
cool.
call to share with everybody a little bit more
Amazing.
about that book. So I'm
Awesome.
going to share my screen and together we're going to
Cool.
spend the next half hour watching this video and
Sounds
commenting and
exciting.
going from there. Okay.
Perfect.
This video, we talked about using life insurance for tax-free retirement income. And we talked about things like Section 7702 of the IRS code that shows exactly where life insurance is actually classified as a tax-free asset, considering that it's structured properly. Okay, so we talked about that. We talked about how you get access to your money, and we gave you some useful stats on, just how much money is actually
Can you
sitting.
pause for a second? All right. So I kind of get irritated with these, and this is rampant amongst IUL influencers and IUL content creators. It's the idea of they try to position like, okay, we've gone through and taught you about Section 7702 and the benefits and why life insurance, this and that, whatever. There isn't a place for sure with understanding all of the Section 7702 and all the tax implications of life insurance. But when it's being positioned in this way of trying to, it's almost just this, it feels predatory to me when people go that route, because I got news for you. People that understand money don't fall prey to those types of pitches, right? But it's certainly one of the most overplayed elements in all of the IUL sales pitch for tax-free income and retirement. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to position the IRS positioning of, and the internal tax code positioning of life insurance in general to be like, this is why, this is the secret the wealthy are using. And it really is apples and oranges. It's not the same conversation. So I feel like I had to say that.
No, it's important because, like you said, it's one of those things that it's like, hey, here's the mystery you never knew, and we're going to solve all the things you didn't know
Yeah,
for you.
right.
Insurance policies in the United States right now. And that number is a staggering number. It's trillions of dollars. It's actually sitting in life insurance right now because of these very tax benefits that we discussed last time. And so we want to talk about why someone might use whole life insurance for tax-free retirement income. And I would actually go so far as to say whole life insurance is actually not built for tax-free income. Whole life insurance
Waiting
is
for that.
be a tax-free asset.
Because
I
he's going to position IULs as the tax-free
Yeah, I mean, this is
vehicle.
the ultimate pivot statement of all time, right? Like, if first of all, you got to understand this guy's channel. He's all like about selling IUL, so he's trying to come at this. This is what he's doing. He's trying to build this. Can you use whole life insurance for tax-free income, or like how could you use it? And he's gonna go through it, and he's gonna be like, it could work, but IUL is way better. So this is why you should do IUL. But
That's
I'm
the
guessing
prediction.
maybe I'm
That's the
wrong.
prediction of the day right there. Let's see how accurate
Maybe
you are. You haven't seen.
maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
Big difference there, and we'll get into that in a second. But the reason that someone would choose whole life insurance for a tax-free income, or rather as a tax-free asset, is because it provides guarantees They have the highest financial ratings in the life insurance world. Some of these companies have a Comdex score of 100 or 99, which is as high as you can get. And it's extremely low risk. When most people see or hear guarantees, they immediately think, oh, that sounds great. So glad that there's these guarantees inside this contract. But I want to caution you, anytime you hear the word guarantee in a fixed contract, you should immediately start thinking this is going to limit my upside potential because that's exactly how it's going to work.
You
It's
ready?
just half baked. It's just half baked. I mean, I'm trying to get through this and let him do it without like having steam come out my ears listening to this malarkey.
Buzzword upside potential.
Yeah, upside potential, right? And so there's a couple things going on here. He's not wrong in the functionality. The higher the guarantees that a company has, the more reserves that they have to meet those guarantees. And there's no doubt about it. Does that put a limitation on how they can invest? To an extent, yes. But I think there's a fundamental difference, right? Because once again, I don't need to watch this whole video to know what this guy's doing. He's pivoting. He's going to try to get you to buy IUL, saying there's more upside potential, that their guarantees are lower. But let's face it, companies never have to rely on the guarantees. So by you even focusing on guarantees, you're shooting yourself in the foot for your growth potential. That's basically what I guarantee you. I will stake my life on. Like that is where this conversation is going to go. And so in some capacity, he's going to go there. And the bottom line is this: is that it's not the guarantees of the cash value that matter. It's not the 2% guarantee of whole life insurance that matters. It's not maybe with Section 7702, like he'd like to bring up, whole life insurance have the ability to have a guarantee anywhere between 2% and 3.75%, right? And so with that said, the higher the guarantee, it does impact what they're going to illustrate like, right? Like the lower the guarantee on the policy, the better the illustration rate will run. And the better the projection will be because, yes, it will allow them to show maybe higher dividends, better returns, more flexibility in that way, right? Totally.
That means you can't earn a rate of return on that money. And so in whole life insurance, the guarantees can sound very attractive. And a lot of times you'll often get the guaranteed rate of return confused with the dividend rate, which those are two totally different things. So I just want to be crystal clear. This is why I say whole life insurance is more of a tax-free asset. It is not necessarily the best source of tax-free income because those guarantees lower your upside potential, which in turn makes it more difficult to turn into an income stream. But we will look at that in a second.
Real quick, because you talked about this before. If you're planning on taking income from a life insurance policy year after year after year, I don't think it really matters what vehicle you're in. The policy not only will lapse, but you aren't going to have the benefits of living benefits. You aren't going to have the things that you need the most when you need it the most. There's not going to be any
100%.
tax-free legacy play where you get to transfer assets in the most efficient way possible. So
Right.
even when we talk about positioning whole life for tax-free asset, then the reality is bleeding out that account. You can't be doing that with any thought of actually having life insurance on the back end.
100%. Yeah, I mean, and that's it. And so I have a lot more I want to say, but like, let's keep watching because I'm sure he's gonna like tee it up.
Show you what I'm talking about when it comes to these dividend rates not necessarily being the same thing as the rate of return. So what we're looking at here is a list of some of the biggest whole life insurance companies that are out there. So a lot of big companies out there issuing lots and lots of business. And what this chart is representing is the annually declared dividend rate on these particular policies. And so what you can see here is between 2016 and 2021, or if we go all the way back to 2005, we had a 7% annual dividend rate declared in 2005. It got as high as a 7.9% annually declared dividend rate. And right now we're sitting around a 6% annual dividend rate. And so if you were shown this chart, and by the way, we've got all kinds of numbers on this chart. Mass Mutual is some of the strongest that are on here. But if you were shown this chart, look at this cash value life insurance, this whole life insurance policy dividend rate from Mass Mutual, and you saw numbers ranging from the highest I want to say is like 8.4% all the way down to 6%. You know in your mind, okay, this is a fixed vehicle. I'm not actually investing in the stock market, and I'm seeing this dividend rate fluctuating between 8.4 and 6%. If you did no further research, if you had no more context than that right there, oh, and by the way, when it was presented to you, you knew that it was guaranteed. You would think this is an absolute no-brainer. Why isn't every single person in this country investing all of their money into the Mass Mutual whole life product that has a dividend rate between 8.4 and 6%? And so we all have to ask the question when it comes
He's
to
not even explaining it right.
if you're getting seduced by a dividend number, you need to ask the question 6% of what?
So if he's
Like,
not explaining it right, tell us what.
good God. Okay, can I share my screen? So here's the deal. This is how this works. So it's not, so basically what Matt is saying is that it's like if you got a 6% dividend, I'm gonna recap what he said incorrectly. Okay. So what he said is you have a 6% dividend, and let's say you have a $10,000 premium. So he's saying that with this premium, the question is 6% of what? And so when we look at this, he goes, all right, on this 10,000, well, you're not earning 6% on the full 10,000. Okay, he's not wrong about that. But what are you earning the 6% of? Well, it's not necessarily just the blend, because like depending on how this goes, this 10,000, you know, let's say I did a 50-50 base policy, right? So if I did 50-50, that'd be 5,000 in base premium, and then it'd be 5,000 in PUAs / term riders to be able to pull it off, right? So when I look at that, now the question he's going into is saying, what am I going to earn 6% of? And at the end of the day, all of this is going to earn or equal a cash value, right? And then so my guess is he's going to say that this 6% is of this cash value, and that's going to be what it comes down to. The reality is it's more complicated than that. And the reason it's more complicated than that is because there's a couple things that happen. Is with the dividend rate, the 6% in this situation, we're going to keep using this number, is a gross dividend rate. So what that means is the life insurance company at the beginning of the year, they declare this 6% dividend rate. The reason they declare this rate is because they're dealing with very, very conservative investment portfolios. They know at the end of the year already what they're going to be able to afford in the dividend rate. That's what it is. So remember what we said earlier, Pete, about the fact that we are partnering with the insurance company, right? So when we're partnering with the insurance company, the company's saying, hey, we're going to give you this gross dividend. This is what the dividend rate's going to be. However, at the end of the year, what we have to figure out is what are our mortality charges? Because if I'm a business partner, well, guess what? The dividend rate is what they know they can afford, but then they have to back out. And they always have kind of a baked in assumption of mortality into that dividend rate, but there's no guarantee that it's going to be what it's going to be. So mortality, expenses, I guess they write it like this, mortality experience. So this dividend rate of 6% right here, that dividend rate might get reduced all the way to 5.1%. Now, the other thing on that is that you're not going to earn the 5.1% on the full 10,000. You're going to earn it on whatever the cash value actually is. That just is what it is. And there's a blend. And listen, it's not completely transparent. It's a bit of a black box. The reality is this kind of blend and the way that life insurance companies figure this out is a bit of a black box. The thing you have to ask yourself is, why am I using this policy? And I'm going to tell you guys why I use the policies is because I want the insurance company to get to manage my risk. That's why I want the life insurance company being the foundational asset in my life. The key to your policy success for any IUL is what are the cap rates? What are the participation rates? What are spread charges? Something they don't like to talk about. What are the no risk rates in these uncapped indexes? Typically 10-year no risk rate, or the no risk rate is the 10-year, and that's what the risk rates kind of hover around. And basically that means the life insurance company is going to say whatever the 10-year bond rates are, that the first percentage of whatever, if 10-year bonds are at 5%, for instance, the no risk rate is going to be 5%. The first 5% is going to be protected for the life insurance company. And so obviously you got to look into all this. If you think this is possible, take a beat. And Matthew Decker, buddy, I want you to think about this for a second. If this were possible, if everything worked like this, all of the smart money in the world would be doing this. They're not. Warren Buffett would stop investing in all these other companies and he would put all of his money in IUL companies. Like he would have all his money in IUL policies. If that were possible, like on a long-term basis, and that's actually how it would perform, but it doesn't work that way. I want people to use common sense that If something looks too good to be true, it's typically too good to be true. And when you look at these numbers, they're so outlandish, and the possibilities and the potentialities of how they can help you get to where you want to be so easily. And the math just like, oh my gosh, like this just works. I want you to take a minute and I want you to think about, if this is possible, why is not all of the smart money in the world doing this? And they like to say, oh, this is the secret tool the wealthy use to get rich. Bull crap. This is not the secret tool the wealthy use to get rich. I got news for you. Whole life isn't even the secret tool the wealthy use to get rich. Whole life is the secret tool the wealthy use to keep their wealth and to transition their wealth. And they utilize it as an asset to build wealth, no doubt, but they're not using whole life to get rich. They're using it as a springboard to create wealth in other areas of their life. I don't know. I know I totally went off, but like,
I didn't expect that from you at all.
I know, but like that is, listen, guys, he's just trying to pitch it. Like, do you want to keep watching?
Well, you know, the funny thing is we're only 10 minutes in.
Yeah, I know, because
we haven't even gotten to the IRR part.
Yeah, I mean, like the IRR, but that's what he's talking about. Like, so like I just showed you that. I mean, let's watch how he talks about it, but it's ridiculous.
It is.
Another way to say it would be 6% is that net of fees. And of course, the answer is no, it's not net of fees. And if you ask them 6% of what, they're not going to be able to tell you. So I'm going to do you the favor of showing you the actual net returns on these policies over the last 20 or so years. And it's really eye-opening and it's really shocking. So when we actually look at the 20-year historical performance, now this is from 1990 to 2010. So this performance is actually better than it would be today. And the reason is because if we look at these dividend rates, they are all higher than they are currently. So this is looking at a period in time where dividend rates were higher than they are today. So here's where we're looking. We're comparing this illustrated IRR on the Mass Mutual product line, the illustrated IRR versus the actual IRR. So can someone in back read to me the illustrated internal rate?
Can you pause this for a sec?
Mutual. What this mean?
So the only thing I want to say here is, like, this is obviously a third-party piece. I don't know who made this. I think you got to be really careful on where you're getting your information. I could tell you right now, and I did a video, I don't know, 5-6 months ago on an actual policy for Mass Mutual. That was a 30-year-old policy, and the IRR, net of fees, everything inside the policy was 6.18%. Granted, I'm not saying your whole life from here forward is going to average or, have an IRR of 6.18%. I'm saying in that environment, all things considered, it was and that was from 1986 to 2016. When we look at that, it's wildly different. It's a different story than this, right? And so this is obviously, my guess is this is some IUL company using this as a marketing piece, doing the research as a hit piece to just find improperly designed policies, maybe 100% base policies over a 20-year period, and going from there. The other thing there is that during this period, we lived in a decreasing interest rate environment. Interest rates were going down. And it's important to understand that as interest rates go down with fixed assets, whole life insurance, bonds, CDs, everything, all internal rates of return will go down accordingly. Whole life insurance, I mean, got a bad reputation for a reason. There were a lot of agents in the 80s that were selling whole life, being like, oh, look at this 12.5% dividend rate in 1986. And they show the illustrations, and the current assumption was saying 12.5% every single year. And people thought, okay, this is amazing. They didn't understand actually how it worked principally. So as dividends went down lower, well, yeah, the internal rate of return is going to show higher on these illustrations if they were sold in the 80s or 90s, and it's going to get worse over time because dividend rates went down. Whereas right now, we are literally near the bottom of the lowest dividend rates that we've ever had in 90 years. And so I will say it is literally fundamentally impossible for this exact scenario to repeat.
Yeah, 100%.
This is a policy issued back in 1990, had an illustrated internal rate of return of 5.94%. Now, if we go back to our dividend chart, you see here that in 1996, they had an 8.4% dividend rate, and it was roughly there all the way back to 1990. It turns into a 5.94
No, it
rate
doesn't.
on
Like,
paper because
it's not that simple. It like the blend, the design of the policy, the base versus paid up additions blend, the chassis. Is it a pay to 75 policy? Is it a pay to 65 policy? Does it pay to 95, 99, 121? Like these all have
Are
impacts
we
on.
are we insuring a 5-year-old or a 50-year-old?
Right, exactly. Like, come on, man. Like, this is the kind of crap that I can't stand. You get people like this guy that pretends he's like an expert on this and likes to just position these ABC numbers like on a spreadsheet and likes to act like he knows what he's talking about. And he doesn't know anything, obviously, based on what he's saying here. Drives me crazy.
they are future casting. They're saying this is what our dividend rate is today. If it stays the same forever and doesn't ever change, which it changes almost every single year, what's your illustrated internal rate of return going to be in 20 years? Well, in this case, 5.94%. But did dividend rates stay the same? No, of course they didn't. And so, if you're considering purchasing whole life insurance and you have this idea about dividend rates and guarantees, and you think that somehow those two things go together, you need to understand that they do not go together. If the dividend rate ends up with you earning $1, guess what? They can always say,
Oh my gosh, really? That's never going to happen. Come on, dude, shut up. Fear mongering, like this undertone of fear mongering to sell your product without actually educating people and utilizing half baked information to manipulate people into IUL sales. Good job, buddy.
it doesn't matter. The dividend rate is declared annually. The guarantees are typically less than 1%. Okay, so these two are not the same thing at all.
I want to like, and I really want to hammer this home. This is a third party piece designed by a company that is obviously got an agenda. And I promise you, I could go and do this on IUL and show you all the policies that have lapsed or have negative internal rates of return over a 20-year period due to everything, right? Like, so I'm not saying all IULs will even do that, but I am saying I could easily go put together a piece that shows this. The fact that he's not showing the top of this thing or like the full, he's highlighting just this one little section of it and not being totally transparent about who made this piece, or so we can have like the total objective of so we can understand more clearly what is the objective, what is the purpose of this, because it's obviously designed to pivot people to IUL. And to that point, I would just go back to all the things that I was saying earlier.
Internal rate of return over 5%. 1, 2. Northwestern Mutual, Savings Bank Life of Massachusetts, which I'm not sure that they're even issuing this policy anymore.
And that right there, by the way, Pete, shows why this whole piece is a hit job. Northwestern Mutual is a direct recognition company. Mass Mutual is a non-direct recognition company. When we look at Guardian is a direct, but like Guardian and Northwestern, this is what I do. We do represent Guardian every now and then. I don't sell Northwestern, but they're very similar companies in nature. They're both Big Four companies. They're both direct recognition, both super stable. Both of those companies perform almost identically. So the fact that there's such a disparaging difference between the two companies tells me that maybe this process was they went out and they tried to find like a couple policies, maybe one policy from each company, and it leaves out the all the design components that go into it. You don't know, or we're like really factoring in, is there anything on here that says how old, like what are the metrics in this case study that go into actually showing all policyholders were 35 years old, preferred non-tobacco or standard non-tobacco,
And gender. I got a
yeah,
5-year-old son and a 7-year-old daughter, and my 5-year-old son's policy premium costs more because he's a male.
yeah, exactly. Like so it's just like this. Once again, it's just half-baked information put together to look nice, to be manipulative, and yeah, there's no basis to any of this stuff.
And the big frustration I had when I came to talk to you about hopping on here today with me is we're talking about life insurance as a vehicle, and we're focused on internal rate of return inside of a policy. And I think the
Mhm.
biggest differentiation that we've tried to point out today is life insurance what you are investing in. It's not an investment. It's a
Right.
foundational bucket to be able to leverage into the other areas of life and then protect yourself and be able to know that at the end of the day, you get to sleep well at night. The best night of sleep I ever got was when my policy got implemented, and I no longer had to worry about hustle and grinding to make enough money to accumulate, to save, to be able to
For sure.
have, if something happened to me, my family was taken care of. And in the
100%.
meantime, now I get lifestyle choices, the ability to leverage. And one thing we haven't talked about, which we won't have time to talk about today, is the whole concept of creating a reservoir. When you are an
Yeah.
entrepreneur and you understand, hey, I know I'm going to have windfalls in the future. I want to create a
Mhm.
reservoir for myself for safe bucket holdings. It creates
Heck
a
yeah.
whole different outlook of what's possible with something like this.
Totally.
On the board that is over a 5% rate of return is Northwestern Mutual at 5.11 over 20.
I think it's laughable that they're trying to position Northwestern Mutual as the company that has the best internal rate of return over a long period of time when
I
like
wouldn't touch it.
that fact on its own, just that discredits this entire spreadsheet, like
Well, we can.
on its own.
It actually points out the apples and oranges we were talking about. This is a
Totally.
90, paid to 90. This is a paid
Yep.
up at 65, paid up at 96. These are paid up
Yep.
at 121 probably, which is typical for
Yeah.
policies that don't have an end date. I mean, these things are not comparable.
Who owns Northwestern Mutual and who is watching this video is like cheering to themselves that they made the best decision possible. And I would ask those of you who have Northwestern Mutual and are using it for tax-free income, I would ask you a question. How are you going to access your money from your Northwestern Mutual contract? You should know this. How are you going to access your money? If you've done a lot of due diligence and a lot of research, you'd probably answer that question this way. You'd say, I'm going to take withdrawals from my contract until I reach my basis, which is the amount of total premiums that you would have paid into the policy. And once I hit that threshold of withdrawing my basis, I'm going to take policy loans. And I would say that is the right answer. That's the best way to do that on that contract. And then I would have a follow-up question for you. Once you withdraw your basis and get into the policy loans, what is the loan rate that Northwestern Mutual is going to charge you on a yearly basis for that loan? And the answer on most of the Northwestern Mutual contracts is over 7%. Most of them are 8%. So let me ask
No.
another question. If it's
I mean, no.
Just
Most
no.
of them. No, just no. Like, just no. Just wrong. I don't even like Northwestern Mutual, but that's just not right. So,
No.
okay.
it
No.
costs you 8% to loan money from your life insurance policy,
8% is the highest contractual loan rate that anybody could ever pay on a whole life policy. So he's saying that he's trying, like, it's just so dumb.
are you making a good decision taking a loan on this policy at 8 when you are earning 5.11? And the answer, of course,
How does anybody watch this guy? He's so slow and so boring and so repetitive.
tax-free asset, meaning the money can go in, it can grow very safely. It is a phenomenal CD alternative, without question. It grows
Bond
safely,
alternative, bro.
does have guarantees.
I was just say CD. Nah.
Back these
CD.
with cash sitting in reserves, it's rock solid safe, without question. But if you have to access your money via loan at a rate that is higher than the internal rate of return on your policy, negative arbitrage, you're losing
Not
money.
about arbitrage, bro.
It's costing you more for the loan than you're actually making on the loan. And that's why these vehicles don't work well for tax-free income, although they're great as a tax-free asset. So let me show you an example of exactly what we're talking
Oh,
about.
so now he's gonna watch.
Tax mutual, go all the way back here to kind of the front of this ledger. I just want to point out what we did.
So he's doing a 10 pay. So this is the thing, like, and 10 pays don't have the best internal rates of return because of the net nature of how they are.
How they
They'll have
stack.
faster access to cash value, but they're not going to have the best long-term IRR. Good job. Once again, Matt, picking the one that's going to build your story.
The majority of the cash is going towards this ALIR and renewable term rider, 84,000, and then fourth.
Renewable term rider, real quick, folks. That is IUL. All right. That's why your cost of insurance goes up forever, and they don't really actually tell you that.
Thousand a year, which means, or is another way to say, we've got this contract, essentially as efficient as we can make it. Okay, so we can't get much more efficient than this. And then I want to point out just a few other things, additional things about this illustration. Number one, this is what I'm talking about. The dividends used in calculating these indices are based on the illustrated dividend schedule and are neither guarantees nor estimates of future dividends. That is to say, the dividend rate can and will change. In this particular example, the illustration is using a 5% policy loan interest rate. Okay, so it's not maybe as bad as Northwestern Mutual, a 5% policy loan interest rate. But if we go back to our Mass Mutual contract here, we're looking at a 3.74% actual interest rate return through 20 years. So is 3.4 higher than 5? Of course not. It's low. So 5% is the loan rate, but this rate may change on each policy anniversary date. So that 5% isn't even locked in. It's a variable rate that can move as things change, which is not what you want to hear in a policy that is already going to underperform its loan rate. Okay, and this is a good policy. I'm not bashing this policy at all. Here it is again. Dividends are not guaranteed. They're subject to significant fluctuations over the life of the policy. But let's get into the actual ledger here. $100,000 a year for 7 years, right out of the gate. We got a total debt.
Real quick, you got a 10 pay, and you're only paying 7.
So then he's doing a premium offset, doing surrender of the policy to pay the premium for the last couple of years and not adding in all this. Yeah. So
that's why design means everything. Design and strategy.
Benefit of $2 million. If we go out to year 14, age 64 on this particular contract, you put in $700,000, you got $970 in cash value.
So what I do love is there's enough truth to give him authority and believability if you don't know better.
Totally.
What he just said is true.
Do you love that though? Do you love that, or do you just kind of hate it?
I love it from a standpoint of how deceptive and awful it is. Because if you don't know better, you just heard those things, those buzzes, doesn't affect your Social Security, doesn't affect FAFSA. So if you're a parent trying to think about using something like this for your child, you're like, oh, cool. And he gives you enough truth to say, give himself authority and believability. But then, like you said before, all of the details are half baked.
So what you just said is if you were a villain, you would love it.
I love hate it is really the truth. I love hate it.
Okay.
Going to be included when you talk about Medicare, Medicaid premiums being potentially surcharged. That $970 is in an asset that is extremely tax favorable. And if you were to put that $100,000 over 7 years in CDs and waited 14 years, would you have $970? I would say no. It's much better. You're putting yourself in a much more advantageous situation, and it's more liquid than a CD would be. So $970, a great tax-free asset, but from a tax-free income standpoint, this is generating $46,000 a year based on the $700,000 that went into this policy. That $46,000 is going to basically last for lifetime. It is going to be tax-free, and it's not going to have market risk. If you go out to age 90, let's say, you've taken that $46,000 out every single year for retirement tax-free, and you've got total death benefit left over of $836,000. So on the face of it, if this was the only thing that you looked at, this is relatively compelling. You put in $700,000, you're getting out more than that in the form of a death benefit, and you got $46,000 a year for 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 26.
I would be embarrassed to show this example and to have this be any kind of suggestion to ever give a client.
Why would you be embarrassed?
Look at it. He's spending all the money down. By the time you get down to the end for income, it stops at 100, which the ability to live past 100 is getting more and more likely. So what happens if he's out of money at 100? I think we need to actually plan for longer than that. That's A. B, you're spending down your entire legacy. It's not taking into consideration anything else. Now, to his defense, there may be other assets involved and whatever, but this is one of the other reasons that I think it's just malpractice in a way to be showing illustrations like this without explaining it as part of a bigger plan. And
if you put all your eggs in one basket, then
100%.
no outcome's ever going to work. We talk about a volatility buffer. This is great for when all of the other assets you have are down, and you can say, okay, yeah, let me go scoop my 46,000 that I need to supplement my guaranteed incomes, and live the best retirement.
Right. And it all comes down to this is like I said it before, I'll say it again. There are no free lunches in the life insurance game. You know, when you think you're going to be able to do better in an IUL, the only reason it looks better on paper is because of the regulation AG 49B, which allows you to have 50 basis points of arbitrage on the illustrations, positive spread on the illustration, meaning I could borrow from my policy at 5% and it's going to show a 5.5% crediting. Over history, that has been the most flawed and overly regulated component of IULs in the world. I'm now partnering with the top IUL litigation attorney in the country. He's sued and won 9-figure lawsuits, class action suits against this. And that basic investment component, how IULs are sold, the way Matthew Decker is doing right here, is exactly the reason and the way that he wins all his cases.
If you have any one bucket that you're planning on pulling from every year forever, there's probably going to be something that comes in the way of that being a successful model for a long-term financial plan.
For sure. For sure.
Action. Problem is, when you actually compare this whole life insurance policy to other options that exist, you very soon realize that on an income basis, this is not the most efficient vehicle. And the reason it's not the most efficient vehicle is because you can't outperform your loan rate. And let me show you exactly what I'm talking about. So if we go here to year 14/15, I'm just going to take a snapshot of the cash value. You'll notice we're not paying any more premiums, so no more premiums going in. And we're just going to compare the cash value from year 14 to year 13. Very simple to do. All you have to do is take 970,851.
This is something I never really like to see. I don't know why we would cut somebody off starting at 51 years old, have them contribute for 7 years, and then they have another 7 years of working, supposedly.
Right.
This is looking at a retirement. Where's the rest of their contributions going? If they were contributing 100 grand for 7 years, why are they stopping contributing for the next 7 years while they wait till retirement?
He's just trying to build his own narrative, dude. He's just trying to build his own narrative. That's all.
But you and I see these types of designs all the time.
All the time.
Right? Where people just aren't actually, they want to say, hey, what's the minimum I can contribute for the shortest amount of time to get the biggest result, rather than thinking with a vision bigger than them, what's right.
For sure.
Divided by 926,850, and you come up with 1.0475. 1.0475. That is the rate of return on the policy. Here you go. 1.0475. Can you see it? You can't see it. Come on, there we go. 1.0475. To wrap up this video, I would say, as a tax-free asset, life insurance, specifically whole life insurance, is a phenomenal CD alternative. You could convince me it's a phenomenal bond alternative. I could get there as well. However, for an income stream, it's not what you want for an income stream because it's not going to outperform its loan rate. That's not a knock on whole life insurance. It wasn't built to outperform its loan rate, okay? There are better, more efficient options available in the same space that we'll be talking about in a later video. So,
like IUL? That was the prediction I think you made at the beginning of this whole video, yeah?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's not even, like, I get it. I mean, it's his business. Like, it's just too obvious.
Of course.
And I don't blame him for doing it. It's what he does. It's like you can't hate a scorpion for stinging people. It's just what they do. It is what it is. But yeah, man. So thanks for having me.
Thanks for showing up today and being able to, if you saw the fire that Chris was lit up by, tune into his channel, Life 180. You'll be able to see why, as the expert in the industry, dispelling the myths around IUL and really helping people understand how to gain a clearer vision for themselves and use financial tools to live the life they love. Make sure you like and subscribe on his channel. And Chris, you and I will continue to make some more content. After today, we started talking about direct recognition, indirect recognition, spreads, caps, pars, all sorts of new language that we'll have to dive into and make some videos so people can get up to speed on what all those things mean, how they influence what the programs are that they're actually purchasing. And if you got value out of today's video, go ahead and like and subscribe below so you can get notifications every time we release new videos like this. Leave your comments and questions. We'll be happy to answer them. And we'll look forward to seeing you at the very next perfect time, whenever that might be.